Grade 11, choice 1, the 28th of September 2020. First 45 minutes.
Okay,
Yeah, we just sit down.
I think take his. No, okay, go, man. Yes. Gonna like die of old age here while you guys. No! Oi.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so today we're going to talk quickly, very quickly, because remember Friday's recycle test, and apparently you guys have chosen to only learn up until the end of last week's worth of stuff, although I've set it up until the end of this week's worth of stuff. But don't worry, I'm fine with that. Less for me to mark. Okay, right. I'm just going to quickly go through, because, hey, you guys are really, really bad on this, evaluating the credibility of sources of information. Okay, you happy with that? Do you know what I'm doing? So, both in the essay, we may.
There isn't enough time. I will pass away.
Do me a huge favor and do this beforehand so that I don't have to mark the test. Okay. So guys, evaluating the credibility of sources of information. So, going. Obviously, credibility means the information is believable. It can be trusted. Okay, which is terribly important in a science. All right. So what are all the things that you're going to look at? And you've got to be able to do this both for essays and for any other kind of test, but also next year in your research project, now that you have your mask over your nose. Okay. So that's why I'm quickly going through this. Now, I'm not giving you the whole 11-page document, because then you'll whine more than normal. Have summarized it into 2 and a little bit of pages and a PowerPoint. And I'm just going to go through.
Thank you.
It wasn't for you, it was to save me being overburdened with grade 11 whining. Because you kids are the queens of whining. Never in my life. Okay. Okay. So first thing, you look at the author and the credentials of the author. Now this is going to sound a bit complicated at first, but hopefully towards the end it'll make sense. So, firstly, the author's education level and training. So you look at the education and the training and or experience in the field relevant to that information. And that's terribly, terribly important, because if I write a journal article on teaching in biology, that's what my degrees are on. If I say I've got a master's degree and I write a journal article on teaching Afrikaans, that is not a credible article. Because even although I've got a master's degree in education, I know nothing about teaching Afrikaans. You understand what I'm saying? So you've got to look at it relative to the field of the information that is being provided. You need to look for biographical information, and I'll talk about that, the author's title and position of employment. All of these are clues which will help you decide. Is the author formally educated in the subject? So once again, my degrees are in biology education, not in Afrikaans education. Therefore, things that I write in this field will be credible. Things that I write about Afrikaans education, completely useless. Okay. Is the author a recognized scholar in the subject? So, an article written by a professor or a person with a PhD, and guys, do you realize that means that that person is called doctor whatever? That is not a medical doctor. Okay, they've just got a PhD in that particular, it means a doctor of philosophy in that particular field, is more likely to be reliable than a blog written by a person without a title. Okay? Especially as work written by professionals and academics is often scrutinized by peers. Now we need to talk about this process. Okay, within academia, in other words, within the academic field, like professors at varsity, that kind of thing. There is limited money to fund research. There's not much money out there to fund research. So people within academia are always struggling to get money to fund research. And they will only get money if they publish journal articles. And therefore, there is a lot of competition between academics. Okay, because it all comes down to getting money for funding research. And so people are very, very harsh critics of each other in academic. They are very blunt and they feel no pain in bringing someone down. Okay, but it has to be justifiably bringing someone down. So they look at each other's work very critically.
Sorry, ma'am, I just wanted to ask, I forgot, like when we write essays, do you usually give us the reference list or is it just the URL?
There will be references. Okay, it used to just be the URL, but now they're putting in things that will help you to realize it's a journal article or it's a whatever. You have to be able to see where it comes from to be able to do that. Okay, so this scrutiny by peers is called peer review. And that's terribly important. Okay. And I'll talk more about that just now. And it determines the standing of an individual, of an author, in the professional community. All right, so here, for example, you would look at the author's education level or training. This might not, Natasha, be in the reference under a source. It might be part of the source. So you might, within the text that I give you, see something which says something like, Joe Soap, a professor of archaeology at the University of the South, reported that his research showed that students that listened during lessons had to spend less time learning than those that were distracted. So although that's not within the reference, hey, shut up. Within the reference at the bottom, Joe Soap and where he comes from or what his job is, it's in the text. And because he's a professor of archaeology at that university, the implication is that this information is credible. Okay. Secondly, is there somewhere contact information provided for the author?
Now, how would that be credible though? Because he's a professor in archaeology.
Not teaching.
So he doesn't know anything about student teaching.
They lecturers teach.
Professor.
So he's a professor, but he would lecture.
Oh, yeah.
What is with you two? Stop it now. to leave the catnip alone.
Professor, sorry.
Well, I have a limited length of time during which I can do all these things. Okay. Okay, you two stop it. You two stop it. Talking constantly. Okay, right. So what is the importance of the author providing contact information? It means that they are prepared to be open to scrutiny. So they're saying, here is my contact information so that we can actually discuss a point if you have something to discuss about what I have written. Okay, it's not like, here's the information, take it, believe it. It's saying, here's my email address, you can contact me if you want to discuss this. Okay, you understand that? And therefore, he's saying that he has faith in what he has written, or she.
No, I just wanted to ask if that counts in their favor, like,
Is it those two that I'm supposed to be shouting at?
No, this is the first time.
that it counts in their favor, making it more, like the article more trustworthy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So any kind of contact information, snail mail address, email address, phone number, whatever. Okay.
What is snail?
A letter with a stamp.
Why can't they just call it the letter?
Pardon?
Why can't they just call it a letter?
Do you not like my PowerPoints?
No, I love it, man. I'm just asking.
Best you. Okay. All right. Organizational authorship. This means that if the author comes from a known and respected organization, such as a respected corporate environment, but generally a respected, this is hard to believe, governmental organization or a non-profit organization, it can be an indication of whether the person might give a biased view of the topic, but generally speaking, if there is an email address that has blah blah blah.gov or blah blah blah.org or blah blah blah.ac or edu. So academic. So WITS is AC. Okay. Many universities use edu, government and organizations like that. In theory, because these bodies depend on their reputation, these things, articles from them will be credible.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Okay.
Because what if they're just trying to sell their
Well, the whole thing is, so, okay. Who's decided what university they're going to? Jenna, where are you going?
I don't know now.
Oh, you're a useless child. Chloe.
Because
Okay, why?
I want to get out of Joburg and I have a good medical campus. In Tigerberg, I have a good
Okay, say the second part and forget about that. I want to get out of Joburg.
to have a good medical campus.
Okay, so they're relying on their reputation to attract the student of such caliber as Chloe. If, however, their academics who publish journal articles publish information that is not true, she's never going to choose to go there. So they attract students because of their reputation. How do they get that reputation? They get that reputation because the people who qualify there are employable. So people who qualify as doctors at Stellenbosch can get jobs easily because people trust the education that Stellenbosch kids get. You understand what I'm saying? So they attract their students because of their level of education. Okay, this can also be an indication of whether a person might give a biased view of a topic. So a person who's the chairperson of the Against Genetic Modification of Organisms Association is unlikely to give an unbiased account. You see that you can use it that way. So if you're looking at an article that is written by Professor Saunders, chairperson of the Flat Earth Society, are you going to trust them and their incredible knowledge of geography? Okay, right. Look at the web address. So .org.gov.ac or .edu, an indication of credible source because the author represents an organization or the government, and both of these should be trusted, in theory. So if you have an article that is written by somebody who's the chairperson of the World Health Organization, you would trust, unless you're Trump, and then you're an idiot. But he should trust the World Health Organization guy and the information that he's getting on COVID from them. Okay, so I've spoken about that. Okay. Statements issued in the name of a reputable organization have almost always been seen and approved by several people. In other words, they've been peer-reviewed. So generally, an organization will not allow a statement to go out in their name unless it's been approved by lots of people within the organization or some of the people who know the things. But there is a difference between Alan Thornton, employee of the National an atmospheric agency says that a new ice age is near, and that is different from the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Agency said today that a new ice age is near. This is this guy's personal opinion, even although he works there. This is a statement on behalf of that organization. Make sure you can tell the difference between those two. Okay.
Would it be more reliable?
This one. Because you can be a total crackpot even although you work for that particular organization. And putting out a statement, you work there, but you could be putting out a crackpot statement.
Wait, so the actual whole agency itself would be more reliable?
Yes.
Okay.
Because then there will be people within the organization. It comes from more than one person within the organization. Okay. In terms of publications, most journal articles, and I'll show you how to tell if something's a journal article, pass through a peer review process. Okay, so let's say, for example, I write a journal article and I want to get it published. And in the academic field, it's important to publish in a journal. So I send it off to 5 different journals. What they will do is the editor of a journal is not an expert in every field. What he will do is take my article, or she, take my article and send it anonymously, no, without an author, to like 5 other experts in that field. So send it to 5 different people and say, please review this. And those people will read through that article and they will go, looking good, publish it, or absolute rubbish, don't publish it, or publish it if the author adds in more information on the method they used in their research. Okay, so because they are doing it anonymously, in other words, it could be my best friend who's doing it, but they don't know I wrote the article and I don't know they're reviewing it. So they don't have to go, I'm Jenny's best friend, I must be nice to her. They can say whatever they like. And remember, academics, it's a hard field of competition. So if 5 people have peer reviewed it and they all say it's great, it can go in the journal, then it's credible. Okay, the information in it is credible.
But then, like, what if, because you said there's like so many like rivalries, if you say, like between like people publishing stuff. What if the people reviewing it are just biased because they want to publish it themselves?
No, then they're also going to end up with a bad reputation. So they're going to lose their good reputation because the editor's never going to send them stuff again to review. Okay, it's a hard field. Okay, so this peer review process, if you in an essay write this source A, from which this information came, is credible because it is published in a journal article which has been peer reviewed. So it must be credible. Go down! Wake up.
Oh my goodness.
It's okay, he's awake. All right. So even the methods used to conduct the research must be considered to be reliable, or else that article wouldn't be published. So how do you recognize a journal article? Okay, so this is how it would be referenced. There are the authors. There's the title of the article. Okay? And it's not in italics. Here is the journal name, and it is in italics, and it's got all sorts of information like which volume, which whatever edition, and the page numbers. So that's how you recognize a journal article. It must have the journal title, and the journal title is always in italics. And then you also look for this kind of information. Then you know it comes out of a journal and not out of a book. In addition, here you've got something called a DOI number, and I'll talk about that just now. Okay. Have you in history been taught about more than one author? It's better to have more than one author because there's less likely to be bias. Okay? But use that as a last resort if you're running out of intelligent things to say. Okay, let's talk about a DOI number. DOI numbers are a relatively new thing, so you're not going to get it in all journal articles, even if the articles are credible. So it's only been around for about 10 years. So a DOI number is a new innovation. There are many older articles without a DOI number that are credible. So all articles that are given a DOI number are credible because they are from academic sources and it indicates that the article has been peer reviewed. A DOI number is a digital object identifier and it is used to permanently identify an article or a document and link it to the web. It's not going to disappear. Okay. Anecdotal evidence. Story told by an individual. It comes from many forms, in many forms, can range from product testimonials to word of mouth. It's generally driven by emotion, and there's no scientific evidence.
Now, when we're writing the essay, do we have to say like all of the points to say it's
No.
critical, or just one?
Just one.
Okay.
So, an example of anecdotal evidence would be, I know someone who smoked for decades and it never produced any significant illness. Those claims about smoking causing ill health are exaggerated. Anecdotal evidence. Okay. No, not reliable. Okay. Logs. Logs are people's personal writings and are not reviewed in any way at all. Not good sources of credible information. Information from blogs is anecdotal. Even if somebody who wrote a blog is a professor. So here, for example, is a blog written by a PhD researcher, but it's a blog. Okay, so you can't trust it. Okay, in terms of publications, a journal is better than National Geographic or Scientific American, but Scientific American and National Geographic are more credible than a newspaper or than Hello Magazine or whatever. Okay. Right? Right. Can you do that? Yes, Mrs. Page. Thank you. Okay.
Are we going to revise the structure of the essay before the test?
If there's an essay on the test, I will revise the structure of an essay. Or I trust that you know how to do it because you learned last year.
We don't learn this last year.
Yeah, sure. But, oh, no. Sorry, I thought it was 10 past. Yeah.
Is there an essay on Saturday?
Maybe.
Is that a maybe yes or a maybe no?
A maybe, maybe. A maybe, baby. Okay. Right. Okay. Love, why are you crying?
Crying.
I don't know. You went all sad,
She's not have tears
haven't you? So it's probably a maybe no.
Thank you.
But you will have one at the end of the year.
It's okay, man.
That's fine. As long as it's not like that's fine. Just want to know if
What difference does it make?
it's related. Energy. Procrastinators.
It's Monday after a long weekend. How can you have no energy?
You know energy to learn.
Because
it's a Monday.
Well,
it's better 5 days than 5 hours.
So then now, immediately having to change from working late to waking up early is a big change. So that's why I think Mondays always been like sleeping time. I mean, if you ask anyone who hasn't changed this routine, hasn't seen one Monday result.
Love, my little cookie poop. Would you like to tell me what you're doing, my angel? No. No.
So what page do we need to study up to?
What's the last page? 42. Don't scan on love.
That's the whole book.
Don't have to. You
We
can.
haven't even done it.
No, but we're going to. We're going to now.
Did you want me to?
That's in the same.
No, I'm going. Oh, do you want to start again? Over half an hour.
No, that's fine.
Yes, no. Okay, make it go.
Okay.